Hey everyone, today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this sloth plush out of fuzzy socks. If you don't have brown or tan socks, you could also use other colors like I did. You'll also need some basic sewing skills. As you can see, I sewed 2 snaps onto the arms so they can hang from things as well. For this project, you'll need the heel and toe of a lighter colored fuzzy sock for the body. I'm using light blue. A tiny scrap of a darker sock in the same color for the eye mask, and a smaller scrap of white sock for the face. To start, turn your sock as shown so that the heel is facing upwards. Then, using a sharpie marker, draw the outline of 2 limbs on either side of the heel, making the front arms longer than the back ones. If you're planning on sewing on some sort of closure so that the arms can connect and the sloth can hang on things, make the arms slightly longer. You can also make them shorter and your sloth can just be in a sleepy position like this purple one. Make the width of the body nearly touch the heel of the sock as shown. Next, I'm going to thread my needle. If this is your first fuzzy sock plush, I highly recommend checking out my beginner's guide to fuzzy sock plushies, linked in the iCard as well as in the description box. Next, I'm just going to backstitch along the black outline I drew on both sides. Once you get to the end, tie several knots and cut the thread. Cut out your plush with a sharp pair of scissors or fabric shears, making sure to save the toe of the sock because we'll be using that to make the head later on. Cut out a small hole in the toe of the sock, then turn it inside out using the hole you just cut, making sure to turn all the limbs fully. Next, stuff the limbs with small wisps of stuffing. It's very important that you don't overstuff this plush so that the arms can still bend and it can hold on to things. I also stuffed the body using small wisps so that the distribution of stuffing was equal on all areas of the plush. Then I sewed the gap closed with a running stitch, making sure to poke in all the loose ends and secure it with a couple of stitches. Next, we're going to make the head. Using the toe of the sock from earlier, add enough stuffing so that it's not disproportionately big or small compared to the body. Then trim off some of the extra sock fabric and sew the gap closed with a running stitch like we did before. Next, I cut out some white sock fabric for the face, using the head as a guide. Be careful you don't get any marker on the head. Since fuzzy sock fabric is so prone to fraying, it literally falls apart as you're sewing it. Cut a larger piece than you think you'll need. In an attempt to lessen the amount of fraying, I pinned it in place so that it wouldn't move around and rub against things as much, and I whip stitched it on. I thought the face looked too small, so I sewed on another larger piece off camera, which I kind of regret. I think it would have been better if I had just extended the sides a little bit and left the shape kind of flattened, like a real sloth's face. Next, we're going to sew on the eye mask. First, I cut the weird elastic thing off the top of my sock, then I cut out a small rectangle that was much bigger than what I needed to account for fraying. Then I cut off the excess and whip stitched it onto the face. The fraying on this piece was really bad, so to patch it, I sewed on a tiny scrap of blue sock fabric. It's not the most secure thing in the world, but I knew this plush wouldn't get much wear, so I figured I could get away with it. I sewed on the other eye's mask off camera. If sewing on such tiny pieces is too difficult, you could also sew on pieces of felt or fleece instead. Next, I'm going to sew on the face details with a yarn similar in color to the eye mask. To create a nose, I kept on going over the area again and again until I got the shape that I liked. For the mouth, I sewed 3 lines, the 2 outer ones first, then the inner one, and loosened them all to make the mouth more visible. After hiding the end of the yarn, I proceeded to glue on 2 flat-backed eyes. You can also tie knots with embroidery thread or sew on beads instead. Finally, I sewed the head onto the body. It's totally optional, but I wanted my sloth to have the ability to hold on to things, so I sewed on 2 small snaps on the arms. You can also use small pieces of velcro, small buttons, or any other similar method. I tried using the needle that I always use to sew fuzzy socks, but then I realized it didn't fit in the little holes on the snap, so I reset with a thinner needle and a thinner thread and tried again. When I went to test out the snap, they weren't closing because I had sewn it on backwards, so I cut it off and sewed it on the correct way off camera. So here's how the finished plush came out. I also made a purple version with shorter limbs, darker detailing, and a smaller head. I personally think they're both really cute, but there's just something about the purple one that I really like. I think it's the whole face is shorter and that the nose is closer to the eyes. But the blue one can hang upside down like a real sloth, which is really cool. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe for more sock plushies, crochet tutorials, and lots of other crafty videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time!